Hi, welcome to a chat at Jaipur Literary Festival with one of my favorite writers in the country, Amit Chaudhuri, who needs no introduction in the English language writing space. And it's very nice of you to give us some time in a busy, hectic Jaipur schedule. I've been a fan of your work for a very long time.
It's really kind of you.
So I wanted to start with Calcutta.
The new book.
The new book.
Or the city. Which one did you mean?
Well, I meant its role in the new book. We had a brief chat when we met socially a while ago, and we had a brief conversation about how Calcutta obviously has a significant influence, but in very different and, to me, very quirky, funny ways that, because they're subtle and funny, you know, people often, maybe people who have very low sense of irony don't get all the humor and the nuance and the quirk in it. But I've seen it change also through time. So what did it mean then in the older books, and how is the city changing for you in the new book?
Yeah, just now somebody was saying to me, oh my God, your daughter is 14 years old, I can't believe it, isn't she? Because she said, isn't she 5? No, I said 14, oh my goodness. And now when I think about it, you're right, it is possible to call my early books old books or older books, because the first one came out in 91 and that is 22 years ago. So it's a kind of, it has reached legal age and more, right? And it is still around, which is and I'm still around, which is the wonder of it. Anyway, but I suppose Calcutta, the city, which is a city I didn't grow up in. I was born in Calcutta, I grew up in Bombay, and I would visit Calcutta once, sometimes twice a year for my holidays, to uncle's house. I suppose that it was a transformative experience, visiting Calcutta, because it was, even though I was growing up in Bombay, which was a much more genteel and a quieter city at that time in comparison both to present day Bombay or Mumbai and in comparison to the Calcutta of that time, which is the 60s and the 70s. It was a transformative experience for me to visit that city, because it defined what it was that I think cities are about, or used to think cities are about. I think of it in terms of Calcutta being my first encounter with an experience of modernity. By modernity, I mean a space in which all kinds of contradictions, such as a certain kind of dereliction, a certain kind of anarchy, a certain kind of industrial, man-made grime coexists with a certain kind of cultural and imaginative vibrancy, a space in which neighborhoods have their own particular kind of definition, and as a result, a space in which continual discoveries from neighborhood to neighborhood, lane to lane, are possible. And there being also a continual sense of strangeness, a sense of foreignness that is inherent to the modern experience of the city, so that it's not even as if you have to travel very far around the world to experience this encounter with the new and the strange. You are experiencing it in the modern city itself.
Right.
And this is what my experience of Calcutta was like. It constituted modernity in that sense. And it is very different from, let's say, the suburban, which defines a certain kind of American city like Los Angeles or San Diego.
Right.
And so when I bring up San Diego, because in the late 70s I visited San Diego, where my cousin lived, and I couldn't understand this conception of the city. I was totally flummoxed. Having been schooled by Calcutta to expect certain things in a city, and began to feel suffocated by the prettiness without quite understanding why. And then after 10 days, when we went on to New York in 1979, when the city was New York was not doing well economically, but was still vibrant, immediately thought of Calcutta. Felt a sense of liberation and immediately thought of Calcutta.
And had all those class structures you just mentioned, right? The grime and the modernity, the poshness and the across.
I think those contradictions were there in New York, and it was an experience of a city that I was actually addicted to. That addiction had grown in Calcutta. You know, this addiction to the strange and right. to the contradictory within a city space. And even now, when I find it in a city, this intrinsic sense of strangeness, of discovering something new, I am sort of excited by it. The last city I probably found it in was Berlin in 2005. Yeah.
And you still find that in Calcutta?
No, I don't. Not to that extent. I don't think it is anymore, except in some areas outwardly, the city it was when I used to encounter it as a child or while growing up. And that is the reason for my initial reluctance to write a new book about Calcutta. So my agent, when I was spending a few months in Berlin, in fact in 2005, my agent said to me, would you write a non-fiction book about Calcutta? Given the fact that you've written 3 novels about Calcutta, and I said, no, I'd rather write a book about Berlin. And the reason for that is I thought I'd had my say about the particular kind of city which was transformative to me, especially in A Strange and Sublime Address and Freedom Song. And because I felt disengaged from the city I'd moved to for the first time in 1999. I was impeded from seeing that city because my original experience of that earlier city had been so formative. So I could no longer engage with the city that post-bhadralok,
which is what it is now.
Which is what it is now, and which is what it has been, let's say, from the early 80s onwards. And then in 2007, the poet Utpal Bose related a couple of anecdotes to me, which got me thinking again about the city, the post-bhadralok city. And I have to add a footnote on the Bhadralok, which I'm not using either as a term of praise or as a pejorative. It's a very, very wide-ranging term. It covers and has covered people who were formerly landed to people who live in rented property. You know, people who have maybe a certain kind of sensibility but own no property. Utpal Bose, the poet, related a couple of anecdotes to me, which got me looking at that Calcutta in which I was now living. And the anecdotes had to do with some people he used to eavesdrop upon near Shialda station at night. He would go to Shialda station at night and hang around unobtrusively and eavesdrop upon the homeless. And one of these homeless people that particularly appealed to him was an old woman he called Khudima, or aunt. And he related to me that Khudima once said to a policeman, "Amra bhikeri hote pari, pagol noi." And he said that, well, yes, I now realize that, of course, sanity is a prized possession for the homeless. If you don't have sanity, then you don't have anything. And then the second anecdote about her is about her saying to somebody who had come looking for somebody else with an address upon a piece of paper, "ঠিকানা দিয়ে কি করব, ঠিকানা দিয়ে কি হবে, শোয় কোথায় সেটা বল." Tell me where he rests his head, where he goes to sleep, what will I do with an address? And he said, of course, for the homeless, the address doesn't matter. The address is irrelevant. It's where the person goes to sleep. That's the important thing. So that made me think that there were stories emerging from the city, and there were stories in the city which must mean something, that there's something more going on underneath that surface, which I was shutting out, thinking to myself, this is not the Calcutta that I know, this is not the true Calcutta. And then I thought, my being there, having moved there from England in 1999, living there for the first time, not visiting, but living there, realizing I'm an outsider for the first time, and also regretting the passing away of the older city that had produced those first novels. That too was one of the stories of this Calcutta, Kolkata, you know.
And those stories seem to have...
Those stories are what informed this new book, Calcutta, 2 Years in the City. Besides, of course, the story of the elections, which is also part, not the main part, but is in the book. Because it's not that I planned it that way, but the elections took place in 2011. The 2 years I'm talking about are 2009 to 11, the end of 2011. So there's a change of hand, the change of power between the left-run government, 34 years, and the Trinamool Congress.
And that has led to... So there are many questions we have to ask Mr. Chaudhuri, but we'll stop here now.
Sure.
And we'll sort of
resume.
Catch up and resume.
Yeah.
Thank you.